Welcome, Aquarius, to your Aries New Moon 1 month deep dive forecast for the ascendant, the sun, or the moon. Each lunation has its own unique identity. We can talk broadly about new moons as a time of setting our intentions. Aries, the host, about being passionate and showing initiative. But I'm going to share with you, Aquarius, the new moon at the exact moment it's forged from a purely Aquarius viewpoint. All the planetary influences that feed into that provide a backdrop for the next 4 weeks. By the end of the video, you'll have a clearer understanding of what you've got upcoming in terms of your energy, work, relationships, and finances. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundel. A very warm welcome. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now to help it to continue to thrive. But please also click or tap the bell notification symbol. So on the screen is the event chart, and we can see the sun and the moon at 27 degrees and 28. And it's on the 17th of April worldwide, this particular lunation. They're in the third decan of the sign of Aries, which is sub-ruled by Jupiter, which has a buoyancy. And also the sun is exalted in the sign of Aries. And the third house can be about our words, our thoughts, but most certainly in Aries, very much about our enthusiasm. And that combination, together with the so-called wounded healer Chiron, is joined by this big array of players in Aries. It's so uniquely rare. So in terms of Neptune, had that brief visit to Aries last year for 6 months. So for the first time in 149 years in Aries for the long term. We've got Saturn for the first time in about 28 years, going to be joined the end of this week on the 19th, exact conjunction with Mars for the first time in 28. So big stuff. What does this mean for you? Well, let's think about Chiron first of all. The last Chiron new moon in Aries was 4 years ago, but we're not going to see another one for another 50 years because Chiron has a very unusual journey. It spends a lot of time in Aries, more than any other zodiac sign. It's actually going to prepare to leave this year, spends 4 months in the middle of June in Taurus, back into Taurus next April for the longer term. But it's been in Aries ever since February 2019. And what it's been asking you to do personally, Aquarius, is work hard on believing that your ideas have value in terms of shaping your identity. Now, clearly, you might not have Chiron in Aries in your natal chart. You might not also have it in the third house. So we're talking about a collective energy for the next month. But if you have felt that your ideas, your way of expressing them have not always been received as enthusiastically and as encouragingly as they may have done, that may have left a wound. And one of the connections that may have shown up most for you in your life could be around a sibling, third house, but it may also be around something to do with learning, maybe something to do with mobility, maybe it's been something to do with travel. It could be around a more academic dimension. That's usually the ninth house. The third house is how we think. So if we're thinking something in a way which is not positive, that could be Chiron orientated. The other thing with third house energy is we actually may be very good at encouraging other people. And Chiron doesn't really get enough credit for its superpower. Yes, it can be the wound that so-called never gets healed, but Chiron is based on the mythology of a healer. He was, in myth, a herbalist. He was a fight trainer of the gods, but he also had an innate appreciation of astronomy at that time, which was inclusive of astrology. So there's a lot of knowledge that you may be imparting or have imparted since February 2019, but it may be part of you anyway because you are a communicator sign. If you don't always feel that people value your ideas, the way you deliver them, the encouragement or information you provide, if that wound is still quite strong within you, the next month of this new moon does give you a chance to think about it in a different way. And what's going to help you is that Mercury, the planet of thinking, is in your third house. So it too is in the sign of Aries, but it has spent the last 10 weeks in, for Aquarius people anyway, the dreary sign of Pisces. Now, I'm not being unkind to Pisces, it just doesn't thrive there. The watery energy might be great for poets and people interested in waxing lyrical, but for practicalities, the second house, Mercury struggled there. But in the third house, much sharper and much more effervescent. However, the sign of Aries is where it also has a desire to be heard in a more passionate way. So that's good, but it is very close to Neptune on this event. So subtlety can be as important as the speed of the delivery or even the sparkiness or personality power that you may deploy. So it's also important if you're reading anything or researching anything that with Neptune in the mix, you're very clear about what the meaning is because that can create some distortion. If you're talking to someone, maybe even online, they could lie outright. It's just the most negative manifestation of that combination, but it's possible. And then we have Mars and your traditional ruler Saturn coming into an exact conjunction on the 19th for the first time in 28 years. And that's really important because Mars is the ruler of the sign of Aries, the sole ruler, but Saturn is in its full in the sign of Aries. So if there is a wound about your mobility, about how you rate your own intellect, how you rate your ability to connect quickly and enthusiastically and charismatically to people, it could show up under this new moon. And clearly, new moons can be a chance to take any ideas we've got and propagate them outwards to people in a very effective way. I think there's a lot to like here. It's just how you judge your ideas or how you judge your mode of delivery. And if there is a harsh judgment about that, people will feel it, they see it. And that's where we can work on Chiron through our thinking. So even if the wound can be hard to shift, for sure, we can at times come to terms with what it's about in our lives. And perhaps as soon as we accept that we don't always get the accreditation, the praise, the recognition that we might deserve, actually it becomes less of a deal. So think of that. Is there some encased thinking that you've got around a sibling relationship, around someone nearby in your locality, a neighbor that you find challenging? If you can release, you may actually create more freedom to then express, as you often do, your absolutely brilliant ideas. And talking of that, Aquarius, Pluto, right at the start of your zodiac sign, is in an exact sextile to Mars. So if you are transforming something at the moment that you're deeply invested and passionate about, your desire to get that idea across is just going to be absolutely incredibly strong. So your willpower is going to be enhanced through this event in a very helpful way. Now, we do have other energies going on, not least Venus and Jupiter, the two planets of fortune, are on good terms. Your modern ruler Uranus, preparing to move into Gemini later this month, is in a very strong link with Neptune. It's possible, therefore, that if you're manifesting some brilliant ideas that are both forward thinking, unique, but also instinctive, and use your understanding of atmospheres and perhaps even the arts, flair, film, music, projection of any kind, very, very strong indeed. So that's good news too. I'm going to summarize those four areas of energy, work, relationships, and finance next. But just to say, I've reduced the price of the personal horoscopes. You can buy one and get three. I've done this because I'm really passionate about more people knowing what their life journey is about through the lens of more serious astrology, one. Two, The cost of living increases the world over make it very difficult for people at the present time. So three for the price of one, your life roadmap, your natal forecast, your transits, but also your draconic life or soul imprint. Please see below for more. If you've yet to watch your 84-year Uranus cycle video on the screen, your deep dive for April on the screen, if you have already watched those, thank you so much. If you'd like to work with me directly, please see the link below for my testimonials. And if you get to sign up for your free daily horoscope fired to your device for your celestial pit stop, remember you can read it for your ascendant, your moon, your ex-partner, the person you're falling in love with. It's not just your sun. Please see that below too. Now, to summarize, your brilliance does come from your mind. And the fact that Uranus is in the mix of this event, just on the cusp of really exploding your talent towards the end of this month for the 7 years future forward, in that very subtle but powerful link with Neptune is brilliant. But if at some level you don't quite believe in your message, your idea, you're unsure that other people really want to hear about what you have to say, these self-limiting thoughts is something really to work on. But then again, if you do have genuine limitations on mobility, perhaps because of health issues, that's no joke. But if you're then finding that frustration does at times mount up, totally understandably, do give yourself a break in terms of the wider context of your circumstances. If you have had mean people around you, neighbors, siblings, that's not necessarily your fault. It's probably because you've been a truth teller at some point. And so if there are ideas that you're wanting to germinate at the moment, go forwards with confidence and conviction. In terms of Venus and Jupiter, that lucky alliance, if you have got an idea that you could work on from home, that would be very encouraging, I feel. In love, I think this is saying to you, not only do you need to have that mental and intellectual stimulation, it also needs to feel right, it needs to be nurturing. You know, us Aquarius people, we can have feelings, we can be soft. Let the softness through. As far as finance is concerned, the North Node through to the end of July, the true North Node, is saying follow what you really believe in and you will be more protected. I can't guarantee that every situation will work out right for myself, let alone you. But I think that trust and belief in your sparkling intellect, because Mercury in the sign of Aries is definitely fired up by that Martian energy. But remember, Mercury, some astrologers say, is accidentally exalted in Aquarius. I agree with that. It also rules the second decan, but it's in the third house of ideas, very Gemini-like, which is what this array is truly about. So have faith. It's been a pleasure being with you, Aquarius. All the best and goodbye.